Welcome to the show. The tourism industry, like any other, has its fair share of challenges in the realm of labor relations, environmental impact, corporate social responsibility, and others. However, there are some inspiring changes taking place within the industry that show that it is an industry that cares as much about the natural attractions within a country as much as the communities within which it operates. Among those leading the reforms are non-governmental organizations, the likes of Botswana's Travel for Impact, who are empowering various community projects in northern Botswana, backed by their Bed Night Bank, or the $1 per bed night initiative, which has hotels and lodges that have volunteered to contribute $1 per visitor towards their efforts. A little further afield, South Africa's WowZulu equips women and youth in deep, poor rural areas of the beautiful KwaZulu-Natal province with marketable skills and tools to improve their lives. Nomad Lodges in South America is piloting a project that aims to help in the conservation of the Amazonian forest and its inhabitants by ensuring that infrastructure is built in total harmony with the local environment and dismantled to leave the area exactly as it was found. Native hotels in Europe have taken deliberate action to develop a website and hotels that are user-friendly for traditionally overlooked market segments such as the disabled, the elderly, and even parents of infants with their accessibility model. These are just some of the best practices that are being exemplified within the tourism sector recently, and we are privileged this evening to discuss the global gains that have been made thus far in the pursuit of a truly sustainable industry, with a man leading the charge at the highest of international levels, the Director of Sustainable Tourism at the United Nations World Tourism Organization, Dirk Glaser.
Tourism is a very important multiplier into the economies. Its growth is generating income and employment. And that is a very important force of tourism for generating development in countries. But at the same time, now tourism with a dimension as we see it at the international level from 2016, we know that more than 1.2 billion international tourist arrivals took place. And this number is to grow in the year 2030. We expect 1.8 billion international tourist arrivals to be generated. We simply have the obligation, we have the need, not only to ensure that this tourism is sustainable, but that this tourism is inspiring us in our normal living environments, in our other economic activities, and that this is helping us in general to decouple growth from natural resources which we are using.
One of the tenets of sustainable tourism is the respect and inclusion of host communities, especially in the sharing of the profits generated by the tourism sector. How did this come to be an element of sustainable tourism, one that is currently being promoted?
Tourism in the recent years has become more and more a thing we are feeling. When tourists are visiting communities, we are feeling that we are getting visited. It is a different product to most of the other products we are purchasing. When you are purchasing a bottle of water, you are just purchasing a product, but the tourism activity is a person-to-person activity. What is very important that the host communities, the local communities, are feeling that this tourism is contributing something to them. Not only in economic terms, but also in social dimensions and the cultural dimensions. In many destinations where currently tourism is developing so fast, tourism is becoming an issue of the discussion. And how to address that best is very often addressed through the marketing, how we attract people to those places. And the current trend of marketing is focusing on promoting the local DNA of a place so that people know already before visiting what to expect, and that those who are visited are receiving the guests who they wish to interact with, who who they wish to showcase their culture to.
Having been a director for 5 years at this program, which achievements would you say you're most proud of?
Currently, in the very big success we have achieved is that we have understood that tourism, within its own dimension, can increase the sustainability, will increase the sustainability at such a speed that if well managed, we have the possibility to act as an agent of change, meaning that we will have the possibility through this extraordinary wish to discover something new, to inspire people, hopefully in such a manner that when they return to the usual places of their residence, they will continue living the sustainability experience, and that through tourism we have been acting as an agent of change.
What priority areas or themes have been identified by the program? What type of themes do you think we'll be discussing in the very near future?
One of the very important areas we are discussing currently is related to the measurement, and the measurement supporting our understanding how we are using resources in tourism. And one of the techniques we have to understand here has to do with the circular economy. Classically, tourism has been seen as an economic sector competing with other economic sectors for limited resources such as fresh water, like energy, renewable energy, or waste. But if we see this sector no longer just in simple linear competition with other economic activities, where some sector will obtain the resource and the other then will be excluded, where we see that actually there's a circularity, where the grey water of the tourism sector can be used for agriculture, then we have a much better holistic understanding, which is reflecting what we see nowadays in societies and in our lifestyles in general, a holistic, not exclusive way of using our limited natural resources for the benefit for society.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world, because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome back to First Issues. The average business person quickly comes to realize that where their skills and knowledge fall short, they can tap into the talents and resources of other people and at times form well-rounded and well-resourced teams or partnerships. Even tech giant Apple has chosen to focus on designing its products internally and relying on contractors to operate a complex supply and manufacturing chain for them. How does a business decide what its core business should be and which of its functions it should outsource? When many major corporations experience financial difficulties, the buzzwords or point of reference quickly becomes, what is our core business? As they look to rationalize, restructure, and improve efficiencies. The Business Dictionary defines outsourcing as the contracting or subcontracting of non-core activities. And to help us better understand the dynamics at play, we have Anthony Kwashi, partner at leading provider in tax, audit and advisory services, Grant Thornton. He tells us the point at which companies typically start contemplating whether to outsource.
There are different lifespans in a business. An organization may set up from the beginning. In that case, most of the functions are performed in-house. As an organization expands, it reaches a point where an organization may look to diversify and concentrate on its core mandate, and then externalize some of its auxiliary functions. So for instance, this is a case where outsourcing may come into place. So When an organization has reached that level, it may decide to outsource some of the functions like back office functions like accounting, data updating, payroll functions, and compliance issues like tax returns and withholding tax returns and so forth. When an organization reaches that level, then it can choose to consider those other auxiliary services by outsourcing them. It may give better value to the organization because then it gives more resources for the organization to concentrate on its core values.
What would this relationship look like? How does it work?
In this day and age of IT, geographical distances really doesn't affect businesses as such because most accounting functions are actually stored in the cloud. So what happens is a company can choose to outsource its accounting function, which is actually being processed off-site. But all the information and the processes are actually being stored in the cloud, which can be accessed anywhere in the world, actually. So if a company's outsourced its accounting function, the outsourced service can process the data, which can then be accessed by the company anywhere it chooses.
So it's all about timing.
It's all about timing. Outsourcing has got its various advantages, obviously. One obvious advantage it has is basically the cost implications. So for instance, if you take the case of a hospital, let's take a simple case of anesthesiology. A hospital does not need a full-time anesthesiologist. So what happens is they can choose to outsource this function as and when there's an operation that requires this resource. So in that case, the hospital can concentrate on its other core mandate of day-to-day care for its patients. So this other service that is not required on a daily basis can be outsourced as and when needed.
What are the signs that a company should look for or should look at when considering whether that might indicate that it's time to outsource?
When you reach a point where you feel the comfort level in terms of profitability has stabilized, then you may need to look at now the core mandate. How better to grow your profits? Is it better for me now to outsource certain functions and concentrate on that core mandate? Is that going to increase my profitability? If you reach that level where you can make that decision and say, yes, it will, then you've reached that point where you can outsource certain functions. So certain functions like compliances in terms of taxes, withholding taxes, VAT, payroll, accounting functions can now be heaved off from the main business so that you can get better economies of scale from outsourcing those functions.
Do you have any advice for companies considering taking this step?
Most businesses will reach a point where they'll have to make that decision. Is it better for us to have a full-time back office function, or is it better for us to outsource? There are various advantages, obviously, to outsourcing. The main one being cost-wise. Cost-wise is why employ a full-time employee when they're not going to be there full-time? Take, for instance, payroll. Payroll happens only specific time in a month. But that payroll specialist, if you employ them, is going to be a fixed cost in an organization. You got to pay them whether they work or not for the full month. But if that function is outsourced, you pay that external service provider only for those hours that is worked in a month. So that way the organization has got that flexibility in terms of fixed cost and variable cost. So an organization is better placed to make better decisions when faced with those decisions. Another advantage, obviously, same example of payroll, is confidentiality. Some organizations outsource their payroll functions because of this function. Imagine sensitive payroll information being in the wrong hands. People whisper in the organization, it can lead to low morale and obviously low productivity. You may say there are a bit of disadvantages with outsourcing being obviously an organization not having full grip on its data, because the data is invariably going to be stored outside of the organization. So even though there may be clauses like NDAs signed, non-disclosure agreements, there's always that possibility that there could be breach of data in how your data is used, stored, or managed.
What is the future of help? It's to help people find the great in themselves. The drive, the passion. Help them find their true potential. Help them stretch. Help them grow. That's why we help people help themselves, help the world. Because a little help goes a long, long way. FNB, how can we help you?
Despite their increasingly valuable role in the economy, SMEs remain significantly high risk. Therefore, a good plan improves your chances of securing financing, as well as your bank's ability to gauge the viability of your venture. Having been advised on the importance of providing an informative background, tonight you will learn how to show that you fully understand the market that you will be operating in. Include trends, risks, and other projections that will show that you have done your homework. Elements that separate a great business plan from a poor one.
The financier or any potential investor will want to know the size of your market. So here you look in terms of, yes, we are targeting this construction industry. This is how big the industry is. So if you're able to get into the numbers and put that into numbers context, really say our construction industry is a 6 billion puller industry, then we know the size, right? So the second part that you also need to touch base on when it comes to the demand is to share information of what has happened in the market, the trends. Has this market been growing, declining, or is stagnant? Right? So I would say in the past 3 years that we've been in operation, the market has been growing at 6% year on year. So I know that if you're asking for funding, you're asking me to invest in a growing market. Or you could be saying the government folded, the construction industry is really driven by government demand, and so government folded some of the project, and for the past 2 years, it's been flat. But there is hope that there are other projects that are coming that might carry on for the next couple of years. So we expect growth to get back into traction. So definitely I know it's stable, so there might not been that much growth, but the future is very promising. So we just need to show indication of what is really happening in the market. And the demand risk as well. So yes, there could have been that huge demand of the product by the market, but what could go wrong? Could that demand just evaporate just like that? I'll give an example. Say, look at the CBD for someone that is in construction, or I want to put money in construction, right? What happens when all the plots in CBD are fully developed? And I've invested in so many construction companies. Am I going to see them now shrinking, defaulting, machinery lying around because the industry is not big enough or is not growing at the rate where they can actually consume utilization of all this equipment? So all these things have to be built into whenever you actually prospect the market or the future thereof. So that is very important. The financier, because all your figures are coming from the market. If you have a brilliant project, a brilliant product, a service, but there are no people to buy it, to use it, to consume it, it's as good as, it's not even worth anybody's time. So you just need to justify it by showing that indeed there is enough population, enough market to consume it. %80 of the business plans that I've looked at, this is one area which is not given enough justice. And I must indicate that it is, again, the very important, the core, is the nucleus of a business. If you don't do a good job in this area, you won't come, no one would actually bet on your business. But there are various ways that you can actually gather this information. For example, there are various trading statistics. So today, if you go to the Department of Statistics and you want to know the consumption of a particular product, they can say, for example, if you want to see how much vegetables we consume. Say you are in the vegetable, you want to go into horticulture. You go to the ministry, you find out you want to establish exactly how much quantities do we bring into the country month on month. You'll get those statistics. So they will tell you that we consume so much and we consume so many percentages, we import so many percentages from South Africa or from elsewhere, and then locally we produce so much. So for you, as someone who wants to establish local, really say, no, here's a market. I want to do import substitution. And there's a drive within by government initiative to really say, we want to buy local. So if you say we are buying 20 billion worth of goods or a particular good from South Africa or elsewhere, and there's an opportunity for me to manufacture here and still have all my production taken up by government because this is their annual demand. So it's very much easy. Again, you don't necessarily have to do this by yourself. There are people, acknowledge what you don't know and seek help. But if you can approach people who are expert in this as well, it doesn't necessarily to be complex. Even the people at statistics, they can sit down and really break it down for you so that in a layman's term, so that you're able to speak to your business plan. Because it's important that once you've put a business plan, you're able to represent it, you're able to speak it as if it's your own, and it should be your own.
"2017 marked the beginning of the rollout of a 5-year strategy at the Botswana Stock Exchange. We learn the strategies and initiatives currently underway.
The BSE is on a path to transition from the current into the future, and as part of that transition, the BSE will be converting from a mutual organization into a public company after we've gone through the demutualization process. And most importantly, the BSE is also has new leadership, and also of most importance is the fact that we want to develop the market further. As such, we've come up with a strategy to develop the market from 2017 to 2021. And as part of that strategy, we want to increase the number of investors. We want to increase the number of asset classes. We want to increase the number of bonds, equities, and exchange-traded products. We also want to increase the ratio of market capitalization to GDP. We also want to increase the number of asset classes from 3 to 6. We have various activities or initiatives that we have put in place. First of all, we have an annual conference, the BSE Listings and Investment Conference, that we host on an annual basis with the objective to engage companies that we feel have the potential to list in the short to medium term. And also we engage one-on-one with companies that we feel have the potential to list, because we want to explain the value proposition of listing to them. We want to ensure that companies understand that they can use the stock exchange as a gateway to raising capital. We also, we also ensure that our services are well known around the country and even abroad. We have partnered with embassies outside Botswana, so that we attract mainly foreign issuers as well as investors. As far as investors are concerned, we have a lot of activities that we do. We have presence on radio, we are on TV, we are on social media, and we also have material that we distribute around the country.